Hi, everyone. Very happy to be with you all here today. A big thank you to Matt and the team. Putting together an event that goes 24/7 is definitely not for lighthearted, but you managed to do this with grace, and I'm very excited to be here. It's incredible how we get to hear today from various presenters with incredible insights and experience as well. What I will try to do today is to provide the insights and experience from a particular business, BAT, the company that represents the multi category global FMCG business, and we operate across multiple geographies as well. My section today is dedicated to diversity, equity, and inclusion, and I hope that it will give you some insights not only into how we prioritize D&I specifically for BET in Middle East, but it will also spark some ideas and thinking, of course, as well. So I represent today a very, very big area. So we are called lovingly APMEA West within our business, and we represent 17 markets, 6 time zones, and of course, we have various variations of our business, including the growing of tobacco leaf, but also manufacturing and selling. We speak in 4 key languages, including English, Arabic, Russian, and Urdu as well, and we represent 55 nationalities across multiple locations, as you can see on the screen. Today, I will be concentrating specifically on the things that we are doing for BET Middle East in the space of diversity, equity, and inclusion. But of course, I'm very happy to chat about the rest of the locations as well, of course, at your convenience. Now, we have a very bold ambition for 2025 globally as a company, fostering diverse leadership, inclusive culture, and of course, driving high performance because we are a very high performance based company. What we are looking into is various elements of diversity, equity, and inclusion. One of the most important ones for us is the diversity of experience. We are a well established industry with more than 100 years under the belt. And of course, making sure that we have various experiences when we are driving the multi category business is extremely important for us. In 2022-23, particularly in Middle East, we brought 16% of all of our new hires with new capabilities, which is something that we foster quite significantly and making sure that they lend well with the organization and bring the change that is required. Of course, like many organizations in this part of the world, we are focusing on the female representation, particularly in our management roles and our senior management roles as well. It's not an easy task, particularly when you're operating within the Middle East cluster, because traditionally that's not necessarily the geography that boasts a lot of females in the workplace to start with. And of course, we are looking to increase the representation, particularly in the senior teams. We are currently sitting at 29%, and of course, it's growing. And this is something that we're very passionate about. And the spread of nationalities. This is again something that we are tracking vigorously and putting in place. For us, it's incredibly important to have different mix of ethnicities and nationalities within the BT organization because it truly does reflect our customer base as well. And it helps us to get all these ideas and juices flowing that we're not necessarily having from a very homogenous workplace if we have one. Now, the workplace today has changed, and we spoke about it today at length in various sessions across Australasia and here within Middle East and Africa as well. We are dealing with employees who value very different things to what they used to value even 3, 5, 10 years ago. Of course, it's around flexibility, it's across making sure that we all have purpose and meaning and how we translate this purpose and meaning into our workplace. We are passionate about diversity, equity, inclusion. We started talking about things like psychological safety, and we're also looking at the reduced loyalty that individuals and employees have towards the business because we are in the era of the great flirtation and making sure that we have all these opportunities, not necessarily with one employer. So, where does it leave us all? It also leaves us all with a very diverse workforce if we are looking at our age groups. So, it's the first time, I think, in the history of the humankind that we're having all 4 generations of our workforce present. Of course, percentage varies depending on what we are talking about, which company we are taking into consideration, but it's very clear that we are mostly represented by Gen Ys or millennials, and the population of our Gen Zs are growing. The representation is growing. For us specifically, it stems from our increase intake in the global graduate programs and the internships. And we can see that this is a very different mindset that we are facing with Gen Zs. So for us, it means that we need to reassess and adapt how we are actually fostering ourselves for the generational needs. How do we attend to each generation specifically according to what they require? And how do we make the most out of them in the workplace as well? And making sure that the workplace is truly inclusive and truly interesting to be in. Now, we are focusing on three big things, specifically with the 2022-2023 lens: representation, inclusive culture, and of course, tailored careers. When I talk about representation, it's everything starting from gender, of course, nationalities, age groups, way of thinking, everything that each and every individual brings into the workplace when they are hired within our organization. Inclusive culture is something that is now increasingly important to us in the sense of inclusivity and also fulfillment that people are experiencing with the organization. Of course, it stemmed from the tone from the top. This is something that we need to continue working on, but it's also supported by the employee culture drive, and I'll speak about it a little bit more today as well. And tailored careers is also something that is relatively new to us, but is built on a very solid foundation. BAT has always been the organization where we foster careers from day one when you join BAT, and you can obviously grow from a representative in the trade environment up to the general manager. However, what we are seeing today is that career pathways, they are not necessarily careers for 10 years, 5 years, or for life. We need to link them to different employee life stages, and most importantly, their personas. What is it that they are coming for when they join the organization? What is it that they would like to do personally? What happens in their families? And how does it actually impact what they would like to achieve from their career in a multinational, large organization like we are? I'll unpack each one of them a little bit and give you a couple of examples. Of course, we're very pressed for time, but at the same time, if you would like to talk about any of these things a little bit more, you know where to find me. I'm on LinkedIn, I'm pretty much everywhere. So, when we translate our ambition into the employee experience, and let's say we talk about the representation, for us, what's important is that we put together appropriate frameworks and policies in place that can actually foster that representation and make our employees very comfortable to be in the workplace. Flexibility is something that's been top of mind across everywhere across the corporate world. In our sort of Middle East part of the world here for BET, we do have the so-called flex work, flex time framework in place. Not only it works and speaks to people who prefer to work potentially from home and also working from the office environment, but we're also making sure that within particularly this part of the world, which is very rich with expats and everybody's coming from actually somewhere, not necessarily from the geography that they're currently working within, they have this opportunity to combine work and play or work and family. They can work from anywhere. We do have dedicated leave bridging systems so they can combine it with their school holidays and work from different parts of the world when they're visiting the family. We also make sure that our employees can have dedicated focus time and learning hours, because this is something that becomes increasingly important for their personal development and also their values. So that's why it's put in place. Employee resource groups are very big these days across many global corporates. For us, it's fostering the community and fostering the inclusion specifically for our females. So again, we are operating within the Middle East cluster, where, for example, when you are a female in the workplace, you do not necessarily see enough role models, particularly in the senior management, that represent your gender. So that's why Women Inclusion Network is something that we foster and we're passionate about, and we're making sure that it has the mutual support and it helps our females to share the experience and make the workplace what they want this to be. And of course, the inclusive framework of policies for parents and carers. This is again something that we've been working very hard over the past 18 months. Very specific policies that we do have for our parents as well. One of the best in class, specifically for Middle East, where we provide the 12-month full paid parental leave for both genders. We're focusing on our dads as well and trying to make sure that they do have enough provisions and they sort of foster the parenting from the dad's perspective. Our bereavement and miscarriage leave, and all of these opportunities are available to our employees from day one. So there's no such thing as tenure anymore that comes into play. From the inclusivity and fulfillment perspective, the cultural piece is being driven within BAT from top down and also from bottom up as well. We very quickly realized that for us to create a very inclusive environment within the organization, we need to start with our senior leaders. And we also do appreciate that taking them through, long trainings, many days, it's not something that they can actually do. A very busy, incredibly busy group of people. So for us, it was identifying what exactly our employees are saying that we need to get better at and create this very bite-sized immersion program for senior leaders, focusing specifically on generational leadership and psychological safety, and deliver it throughout the year in bite size with our BET subject matter experts as well as external experts as well. So it's sort of building this senior leadership community which focuses on these specific topics and educates themselves. In terms of the bottom up, we do have a program which is called Ethos Champions, which is very much linked to the ethos of the organization of BAT globally. And it's employee drive interventions to improve the culture bottom up through micro actions, behavioral changes that they are seeing within their particular market or within their particular department. Of course, this program does need to exist with a very strong support and leadership from the senior team as well, but they do have everything in place for them to strive as junior employees as well and to make this change so they are equipped properly. And of course, the tailored careers that I spoke about. What we're trying to do right now within the organization is to understand much better what our employees are trying to achieve within a particular stage of their life and their career. As a result of that, we are working towards banking them into three big territories, whether it's the career drive or balancing your career or stabilizing your career. I'll give you an example. If you're, for example, in your drive phase as an individual, you are specifically focused on your accelerated career growth. You're putting your hand up for very challenging assignments, and potentially there might be globally across BAT organization across the world. You might be having low level of personal or family responsibility, so you're actually prepared to probably put a little bit more of discretionary effort and work a little bit harder on very challenging cross-region projects. So you are in the drive phase. So what does that mean for us as an organization? If we know that, if we have these appropriate conversations with you, we know how to cater to your needs as well, right? For example, on the contrary, if you are in the stability phase, when you are, for example, not mobile, you prefer to stay in the same geography and you have a very high or medium level of responsibility as well, that means that you probably would like to be stretched in this particular location through lateral moves for project work, through something that still makes you sort of stretched, but you don't need necessarily to go above and beyond in terms of your locations and in terms of your personal time and dedication of your personal time to that. That, of course, only works when it's led from the top. And one of the examples that I wanted to show you is how we demonstrated from our senior leaders as well. Instead of having conversations and demonstrating how they build their career from early days towards a general manager, we try to make sure that these conversations are happening through their life stages as well. When they share their personal input, when they share their family situation, what happens with them as personalities, where were they on their career pathway before they got to where they're at, and what sort of sacrifices they potentially had to make, what life stages did they have to go through, and how does it all come together with their personal life as well. That makes them obviously look more personable, and it also helps our employees to sort of ease the load and ease that conversation that they need to have about their career pathway within the BAT group. Now, how do we know that all of these things are working? It's a very good question, and I think every organization is looking at how they can measure things. So, for us, we look at three buckets in terms of measuring our D&I efforts. First of all, as you can see, we benchmark ourselves quite significantly with the external organizations. There are many ways you can do this. You can obviously be part of the industry groups and sort of participate in various researches as well. We also try to make sure that we apply for certain certifications that do have a look at what we are doing and comparing us with others. It gives us two things. Firstly, we can compare ourselves to the best practices and see where exactly we are lacking and what do we need to do better. And it also helps us to foster this conversation with our employees as well, where they can also see how we stack up externally and give us feedback as well. We can also see the results through the numbers. We're big believers that what gets measured gets done within the organization, and D&I being part of our strategy is not exclusive to that as well. So we are tracking quite vigorously and putting plans in place what has happened with our, for example, female representation or cross-industry hires representation. Do we have enough nationalities represented? Do we making the right choices where we need to when we are developing our people? Do we put the diversity and inclusion lens through everything that we do, be it learning and development or hiring? But these are all great things, but unless we actually see what our employees are saying to us, unless we can feel that, it's very hard for us to understand if things are working. So hot off the press, literally a couple of weeks ago, we received the results of our biennial Your Voice survey, which is our employee survey that happens globally. And here I'm representing to you the numbers based on 451 responses that we particularly had in the Middle East for BAT. And you can see that there are certain questions that are directly linked to inclusion and inclusivity. And it's important to us that they are all above 85, 80 percentage mark. It's obviously, it speaks something to the sense of accomplishment and fulfillment and belonging. It's the piece on where 86% of our people do feel that they can put different views on the table, and we value different perspectives when we are working together. The score, which is the 85%, is a very important one because it speaks to our line managers. And of course, like in the ideal world, you always want to have the score at 100%, but no one is perfect, and there's something that we need to work towards as well. But 82 is very high. This is when we see that the line managers and the immediate supervisors, they do care about an employee as a whole, as a human being, in the essence of their well-being. And the most important one, specifically very close to my heart as well, is the whole index that measures the sense of belonging that we see. It's the ability to feel that you are part of the team, that you actually belong, and you feel very comfortable being yourself within the organization. So 92% of our Middle Eastern employees stated that they do, in fact, feel as part of the team, which is incredibly important to us as well. So we do measure this on a regular basis through the cross checks as well. And there is sort of the deep understanding of these indices via the comments and the focus groups that we are running as well. Now, no one is perfect. And I know that many of us, particularly in the corporate world, we have been struggling with the diversity, equity, and inclusion equation for quite some time now. Many different things come into play pretty much every year. We are operating in a very accelerated pace in the post COVID environment. And some of the things that we deemed very, very important, they obviously now on the back burner, and we see a very different journey for our employees. There is absolutely no end destination. And fortunately for our employees and for the experience, the bar is being raised pretty much every day externally. So we always need to be mindful of that and be kept on our toes. Of course, we all make mistakes. We absolutely do. And the key here for us is to learn very, very quickly, and for all of our initiatives to be able to iterate and to make sure that we put in place something that is truly effective. And if we put something in place that did not resonate with our people, then obviously we learn from the mistakes, and we go back onto the drawing board as well. And of course, having the right intentions is incredibly important. If we are working towards the DNI strength with the right intention, and most importantly with the full leadership support, most likely we're going to get where we need to be, and hopefully in the time that we are raising for ourselves as well. Right. With this in mind, obviously we don't have too much time to talk about all these topics, but I would like to thank you all for having us during the Inspirathon. I learned a new word for myself as well, Inspirathon, and a big thank you to Matt and the team for having us participating here. Happy to take any questions, and happy to speak to all of you offline as well. And I'm here with Matt and David as well, so if any questions, happy to take them. Hi, David.
Hi, Irina. Thank you very much for this testimonial. I guess that the DEI is also about trust, creating trust within the workplace, and showing loyalty towards your people. I do have one question, if I
Mm,
may. You were talking about an organization where there's many expats coming from
mm,
everywhere,
mm.
but of course you also have your local cultures, your local people.
Yeah.
And if we look at the definition of sustainability or the definitions of DUI, sometimes there might be a friction between what a
Mm,
corporate defines as being inclusive and being right and what is living in the local cultures. How do you cope with that friction that
mm,
not
mm.
everybody adheres to our definitions of DEI and does not see the importance always of DEI as we do? How do you deal with that?
It's a great question, and I think it's a very multifaceted question as well. So we are truly global. I'm actually coming to you from Dubai today, working for BAT in Middle East, but I'm originally from the Australian business of the company. So I've experienced this myself when a couple of years ago I moved to the Middle Eastern part of the world, and I had a lot to learn about the culture and appreciate the culture, how things are done, how things are perceived, and how necessarily you need to communicate because things can be misconstrued. So for us, what's important is for everybody who's joining BAT in another part of the world, we do have the cultural appreciation and orientation even before they land in this geography. This is just for them to know the basics. And then obviously when they join the organization, we need to make sure that they have not only a coach, a mentor, line manager, but also a buddy, somebody who introduces them into the sort of the cultural patchwork of the organization, how things are done, what people are necessarily can be sensitive about, etc. So this is something that it works as a well-oiled machine for us as well. And to the second part of your question, yes, of course, we do see very different perceptions and definitions of how people understand inclusivity, and what's inclusive for you is not necessarily inclusive for me. For us, it's also very important to set the standards that we do have as an organization, and what are the things that we will stand for, and what are the things that are not tolerated. So we operate on a very sort of mutually agreed ethos definitions, which is around respect, which is around trust, and which is obviously around the sort of the basic appreciation of each and every individual, their religion, where they're coming from, their gender, etc. So a very mixed company. And of course, in some locations it can be a little bit challenging than the others, but mercifully, with the experience that we've got and with the right people in the right roles, we are able to make this sort of work for us.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you very
Thank
much
you.
for your contribution.